Hey beauty babes, I'm Racquelle and this is Perfected Beauty. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I apply my foundation. Basically, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I apply my foundation, how I highlight and contour my face with both cream and powder products, and how I get my skin flawless and ready for the day. So let's just hop right into the tutorial. So I already have my eyebrows done and filled in to start off. I have a separate video on that I'll also put the link to in the description box. Before I get started with any foundation or anything like that, I always like to make sure that one, I have a clean face, and second, that I have a moisturized face, especially for myself because I have more normal to dry skin. So I like to just make sure that I have a moisturizing base on before I go ahead and put on any of my makeup. So what I like to use for that is this Pond's dry skin cream, and I take a few dots of it all over my face. It is very thick and creamy, so you don't need too much of it, and I rub that in with my fingers. Also, before I get started with my foundation, I like to make sure that my lips are moisturized as well, because more than likely when I am doing makeup, I'm going to be putting on some form of lip product at the end. And for that, you want to make sure that your lips are nice and moisturized and soft. So for that, I actually just have Vaseline on my lips. I already put that on. So now I'm going to be moving on to priming the skin. What I like to use for my primer is this NYX Shine Killer primer. So although I do have pretty normal to dry skin, I still like to use this shine killing primer because throughout the day and over hours of wearing makeup, it can start to get a little oily, and you don't want for your skin to be excessively oily, especially if you're like me and you like to do highlight. You kind of just like that highlighted points to stand out. So I like to put this on first and just mattify the face. So I'm gonna put this basically in the same places that I dotted that moisturizer, and then you just rub that in wherever you tend to get oily. And for me, that's basically all that I do as far as skin prep. Just make sure that my skin is clean, that my skin is moisturized, and my skin is primed. So now we can go ahead and move on to our foundation. I like to use the L'Oreal True Match foundation, and currently, because it's summertime and I am nice and golden, I have to mix these two foundations together. So I'm using the L'Oreal True Match in W8 and in C8. What I like to do is just dot it around my face, and I usually put the lighter color more towards the center and the darker color towards the outside. So once that foundation is dotted all over your skin, you're gonna go ahead and grab your wet beauty sponge. I like to use the one from Real Techniques, so just use whatever you like to use. So although it's great that foundation gives us one smooth color on our face versus having acne scarring or marks or blotches or whatever you may deal with in your skin, the downfall about that is that normally skin isn't just one color. So you usually have the lighter regions towards the center of your face and kind of the darker regions on the outside. That's why we do highlight and contour. So now I'm gonna move on to cream highlight and contour, which for the highlight, I prefer to use the LA Girl Pro Conceal. And today I'm gonna be using the color Fawn. You can put on as much or as little as you like. If you like to have a really super bright highlight, then you can cake it on. And if you prefer more of a subtle kind of natural highlight and contoured look, you can put on a little less. I kind of like to go somewhere in between. So I'm gonna start with putting the highlight under my eyes, also on my upper lip, my chin, down the center of my nose, and a little on my forehead. So for the highlight, I also like to use my Real Techniques sponge and blend it out. And when blending out cream products, especially your foundation and highlight and contour, you want to make sure to use a dabbing motion with your sponge versus a swiping motion. A dabbing motion is going to pat it into your skin and keep it where you placed it, versus a swiping motion which can move it, it can move around the product underneath, it can give you streaks. That's all stuff that you don't want to do. So I like to just make sure I take my sponge and pounce it on my face very lightly. Now, as you can see, I put the concealer on a very central region of my face, so if there was any imperfections in this portion of my face, it would get covered up since I'm using concealer to do my highlighting. However, if you have anything more on the outer perimeter of your face that you want to cover up, do not use the lighter concealer because it's not gonna match up, it won't look natural. So what you want to use is a concealer that actually matches your skin tone, and then we can move on to the next step. So next up, I'm gonna be taking my Anastasia Beverly Hills Cream cream contour kit, and mine is in medium. And I'm gonna be taking the darkest color, this ash brown, to contour my face. So in order to do that, I'm going to be putting this ash brown wherever I want to kind of chisel and sculpt my face. So wherever I want a little bit more definition, I'm gonna be putting it right on my cheekbones here, kind of by my temples, on my forehead, along my jawline. And then I'm gonna be taking a slightly lighter color. I'm gonna be taking the chocolate and contouring down my nose. Now, cream contour is not an absolutely necessary step, and if you're a little new to highlight and contour, you can skip this part if you like. I personally like to do it on days that I have a little bit more time because I feel like it really gives some depth to the contour once I put the powder contour on top. So to blend this out, I'm gonna be using this flat top contour brush by e.l.f. and just dabbing it just like I did with the beauty sponge when I was applying my highlight and foundation. So I'm just gonna be dabbing right on top of that contour and bringing it a little bit upwards towards my temple and trying not to go below the line that I placed the contour. And then the same with the contour on the temple, we're gonna be dabbing onto that and bringing that back towards our hairline. So the contour is supposed to mimic a natural shadow, so you want it to be a little bit more ashy or a little bit more on the gray side than on the red side. And you just want to place it wherever you want those shadows to appear on your face. And with the contour on my jawline, I'm going to be dabbing that as well and dragging it down towards the neck. So then what I like to do when I'm applying cream contour is go back in with my sponge, not putting any more product on it, and just going over the line where the cream contour meets the cream highlight and softening all those edges. So now you can see I have one side of my face completely blended out and the other side of my face is not. So you can see where I place the contour and then what it looks like blended out. You can see the difference in my face. Now I'm gonna go ahead and blend out this side of my contour as well. Okay, so now that my contour is completely blended out, I'm going to go back in with my Real Technique sponge right underneath my eyes. Because the concealer has been sitting there for a while, it kind of had time to crease, and we don't want any creases when we set the concealer, which is going to be the next step. So I'm going to go in with my Real Technique sponge and just tap right over top of where we placed that concealer and try and get rid of any fine lines that may have come up. Once that's done, to quickly set, I'm gonna be taking this Rimmel London Stay Matte Pressed Powder. And the one I use is in Nude Beige. I'm just gonna take that right underneath the eyes to set the concealer. I'm also gonna be setting any of the other concealer that I put down on my face. So on my chin, right above my lip, on my nose, and on my forehead. Next, I'm gonna be taking my powder foundation. This has two functions. This helps to set the rest of my face where I have cream product, and also since it's a powder foundation and not a setting powder, it deposits a little more color. So I like to use the Maybelline Dream Wonder foundation in the color Coconut. I'm just gonna take that on a powder brush and dab in all the areas of my face where I don't have highlighter. Now that the entire face is set, I'm gonna take my Anastasia Beverly Hills contour kit, the powder one, and this one is in medium to tan. And with that, I'm just gonna go over all those areas that I put my cream contour. So this is gonna intensify that contour color and bring some dimension to the face. Once my contour is set, it's time to move on to baking. I'm gonna be using my Sacha Buttercup setting powder and my Real Technique sponge to bake. So I just dip it into the powder and then stamp it everywhere that I want to bake. And for me, baking is absolutely necessary. Not only does it make your foundation bulletproof so that you can hug, kiss, laugh, and minimize the amount of transfer from your face to, say, someone's shirt or jacket, but also, since I live in Florida, it's usually 2 million degrees and sunny, especially for the bridge of my nose where my sunglasses rest. If I don't bake there, then whenever I take my sunglasses off, usually there's some makeup that comes off with it. So with baking, it ensures that my makeup will not move throughout the entire day, and it keeps it looking just as flawless as when I first applied it. So I just give that some time to sit, and once I feel sufficiently baked, I'll go ahead and take that same brush that I applied my powder foundation with, and I won't add any more product to it. I'll just brush off that powder. And usually when I'm brushing off my powder, I like to use the under eye and nose powder for very last, just to make sure I get the most baking out of it. Once I've rubbed off all the baking powder from my face, I like to just continue on with that brush and buff all over the skin to make sure that everything that I put down is nice and blended in together. From there, I like to move on to blush. So depending on what eye look I'm going for, that usually determines the blush that I'm gonna wear. But today, since I'm gonna be going for super natural, just showing you how I do my foundation, I'm gonna be taking a pretty simple like peach tone blush. I like to smile and poke out my cheeks, and then I start from not the apple of my cheeks, but more like on the side, and I bring it back towards the temple. And then once I've applied it, then I'll swirl a little bit over top of the apples of my cheeks to give me my color. And sometimes I'll run just a little bit of blush right over the tip of my nose, not too much, but just a teeny bit. It keeps the color nice and consistent in this area. Now once I have all those powders placed down on my face, before I do my highlight, I like to just spray myself with a light mist of setting spray and then apply my highlight and then set again. I like to do that because the moisture from the setting spray gives the highlighter something to stick to and really makes it intense and pop. So today I'm going to be using the NYX Dewy Finish setting spray. So I'm going to go ahead and spray myself with that, and this really helps to make all of the powder and the creams all just kind of settle down together and make it look more like skin, especially with the dewy finish, because it's not going to look super dry. It really gives you that skin-like finish. Wait for that to dry a little bit before I go in with my highlight. And now I'm going to be taking the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sun Dipped Glow Kit, and I'm going to be mixing two colors. I'm going to start by putting down the color Summer, which is a pretty bright, almost white highlight, but with just enough gold that it doesn't look ashy when I put it on. And when applying my highlight, I really like to bring it in over the apples of the cheeks as well, just to give you that really youthful glow. And then I'm gonna go in with a larger fan brush and take in the color Bronzed and just go over top of that. Then once that's down, I like to go over everything with just this clean brush, kind of buff it all in before I apply another layer of setting spray. And then sometimes if I feel like I went a little bit crazy with the highlight, which does happen often, I'll go back over the cheeks with that same blush brush and not put any more product on it, but just depositing whatever color is left on the brush to blend that highlight into my skin a little more. Then I'll go ahead and spray one more time, and there you have it. My foundation routine is complete. So that is how I apply my foundation. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I was able to help someone with this video. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, because that bell will let you know every single time that I upload so that you never miss it. If you have any questions or want to know anything that I didn't answer in this video, please also leave that in the comment box down below. I always reply to my comments, so don't be shy. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I'll catch you in the next one.